thanks everyone for coming tonight. I'm so grateful for everybody to come to all these events. I haven't really had a chance to, I suppose, stand in front of everybody and say thank you. And I've spoken to all of you individually actually a lot, which has been my pleasure. And I think that you guys make the program, and it's been good to get to know you all. So just thanks for that. So David asked me, surprisingly, to do a talk tonight of my choosing, I think David and I had a lot of conversations about this sort of thing because we both sort of understand each other and how it affects us. And anyway, when he asked me what I wanted to do, what I wanted to talk about, I sort of said, well, what I'm a lot about is approaching life from an inside-out perspective. So rather than doing what society expects you to do, go interview and figure out what you want for you. And that's got a lot to do with small business women wanting to do what they want to do in their life and be strong enough to follow that. So I hope everybody's enjoyed the night so far. And I also, I've had a lot of people talk to me about public speaking and that it would be a good topic to include in a program like this, and I'm not that great at it myself. So I'm learning as well. And so I just sort of said I'm going to tell you that I'm going to read this to you, because David sort of mentioned to me that when you do a talk, you should either speak from your heart or write it down and read it from your heart. So the topic I chose was intuition, and it was in the context of the importance of intuition as a decision-making tool for women in small business. This talk is my thoughts. I'm not trained in this area, although it's a topic that interests me a lot. So hopefully my comments, ladies, in the very least, will plant the seed for you to redirect your consideration of intuition as a tool to help you make decisions in your businesses. It's only when you start practicing and start listening to that inner voice that it can be found and exercised. If you don't use it, you lose it. As I watched the seagulls, I thought, that's the road to take. Find the absolute rhythm and follow it with your absolute trust. That's a quote from an ancient philosopher, Zorba the Greek. So what is our absolute rhythm? The intuitive flow that flows within us at all times. So what I'm going to tell you tonight is why I've chosen that topic, a couple of notes as to what I think intuition represents to me, and then why intuition means a lot to me in terms of my personal story. So I've chosen intuition as I think women are more in touch with their intuition than men, which therefore I thought was very fitting because it's a women in business program. And I think that developing intuitive skills is particularly important for small businesses into the future with the advent of technology, in contrast to large businesses. And should I keep talking? Yep. And we've all actually talked a lot about that in terms of how our small business is going to stay competitive with big businesses. So that's been in our mentee discussions. So creativity is really how you're going to stay ahead at good service. And intuition is our small business women's purest decision-making tools. And studies at Harvard University have said that small business owners attribute 80% of the decision-making to intuition. Are we fixing it?
Yep, keep going.
So many women know, but they keep silent and they allow their men to carry on and keep charge. I don't do that. So what I think intuition is our human version of animal instinct. It does not make sense to your mind. It's there that interferes. It's the mind that interferes with intuition. Intuition makes sense but can't be explained by logic. Intuition means learning to be educated from the inside out. Intuition is wild and free. It's the juice of creation. It's energy. It's the impulses that drive us. Intuition is about having courage to be authentic. It requires absolute trust and belief in ourselves. So my personal story as to why intuition means a lot to me this is just a little bit of my story. Since I was a little girl, I always had a sense of knowing, a voice that told me about things. I would predict things intuitively from a very young age. When young, though, I didn't know it was intuition. As a young child, I would know instinctively to trust someone or not. My sister was the same. I watched my sister and how she dealt with it. I've always been an observer. She acted on her intuition, talked about it. I watched how she did this and became to be thought of as a little bit weird. She was forbidden by adults to talk about her predictions. She was told not to express, not to feel. So it was my conclusion as a little girl that acting out my true feelings for disapproval When we feel in a way that's out of sync with the way we are taught to behave, this leads to rejection, which is what many of us experience in our early childhood. So I learned to shut up. I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences. As a result of this, I ran from my intuition and eventually it shut down. I think it was too much for me as a little child to handle. The only connecting point I had I would always climb up to the top of an oak tree in our back garden and look at the view from above. There was just something about being high that always connected me to something that was deep inside me. I sometimes think that might be why I'm in Armidale, because it's, I think the highest place in Australia. And I sense that. So then, because I made the decision that the world of society was not accepting of this way of knowing, making decisions just because we knew, I kept it secret and then it eventually shut down. Then it wasn't until about 10 years ago when I had what I would call a near-death experience, a very traumatic experience. And after a long period of recovery, 10 years, this side of me was reawakened. I suppose it was all meant to be, is at this later stage of my life, I had the maturity and courage to listen to this knowing and act on it. It started off as being able to sense little things in people, picking up things before they spoke. Then it developed into a knowing about big events like who my brother was going to marry before he even knew. Initially, I would just tell one person to get validation. As more and more of my knowings came true without any logical evidence, I now just know I'm becoming a lot more active in making decisions based on this knowing or feeling, and I'm getting a lot more in touch with actually what it means and sort of interpreting it into words. For example, a major decision based on this feeling was my decision to come to Armidale. Other than my sister being here, there was no real reason for me to come here. Nowadays, I think I'm thought of as a little odd in the decisions I make, which are very contrary to society norms. I sort of just follow my feelings. Without any evidence, I felt I needed to go to Armidale as this was where I was going to start my business. I had no idea why I thought this, and it happened. So I do continue to pinch myself as to why I know and that I'm right in my knowing. Acting on this knowing brings so much magic into my life, and at the same time, it takes a lot of pressure off because I have less inclination that I need to control life. So, intuitive awareness is good for the body, I believe. It makes you healthier if you're in touch with it. It's about flexibility. It flows like water. It is in motion, in balance, open, pliable, loose. It's the opposite of enclosing ourselves in our thinking mind or Mortimer. Intuition is a call for a new intelligence. It's often said that we cannot solve anything from the same method it was created. In order to create change, innovation, creativity and difference, the solutions must come from within. The best way I think to develop intuition is to remember to consult your feelings and ask yourself, how do I feel? I do that every night actually, and most days, morning and night. I ask myself how I feel. Doesn't matter what comes to you. This is the intuitive portal. Then simply act on it. Our human genius comes through our feelings first, then into our thoughts. One great thing about the intuitive mind is it's far quicker than the rational, logical mind, and that's why I think it's a tool that small business women should use more. If anyone wants to develop intuition, the first thing they have to develop is silence. Be still. Art, music helps you a lot with that. And be quiet within yourself. If you're not quiet within yourself, all you'll hear is that mind blasting and tormenting you. Intuition is connecting with that small voice inside. This is an extremely personal thing and everybody has to find it for themselves. I now can not imagine a day in my life without intuition, without tuning into the feeling of my small voice inside. The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. It takes guts to follow your guts. Let us all recall a situation where our intuition guided us or helped us make difficult decisions. I'm sure everybody can remember a time when intuition was our ally in difficult times. So thanks for the opportunity to share something that means